Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fate's Wide Wheel. I'm your host, Sam Fain. I am here with kind of a quick kick, might go a little bit longer. Got a couple things to talk about other than just the movie that we'll be featuring, which is going to be Come Drink With Me. And I wanted to start off by saying that the past couple of weeks kind of got away from me. I really intended on putting out at least 2 videos a week. That's something that I've been trying to do since early November, and was keeping up with that pretty well. Had released a lot of videos throughout November and December and early January, and then I got hit with Tech Week for the show that I'm currently in. Some of you may know I work as an actor, doing a lot of storefront theater, mostly in the Chicagoland area, and Tech Week and some other things, my day job and family, et cetera, just took away all of the time that I had hoped to have to do these videos. And the thing that's really kind of sad about that is that I was prepping material, I was ready to go. I just couldn't find the time to sit down in front of the camera. But here I am, sitting down in front of the camera to bring you some more videos. I just want to thank everyone out there who has been following along, who's been commenting. I really appreciate all of your support. If you're liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, it really helps a lot. And it makes me feel appreciated. It makes me feel like we are having a conversation, which is something that's important to me. And I certainly want to be able to spark some sort of dialogue, or at the very least appreciation for the films that I'm talking about, because they are films that I love quite a bit. We're going to be going all over the map. There's some stuff that I want to talk about that's not necessarily related to Hong Kong filmmaking, which is what I've been covering mostly, or adjacent, like martial arts filmmaking, or something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was technically a co-production with Golden Harvest, which of course is a very famous Hong Kong film studio, the studio responsible for the Bruce Lee films, for instance. But I definitely intend on going a little bit more all over the place, talking about more films, and I've got some cool stuff lined up, including some television series that I'm interested in talking about, and special releases for those television series. But today, we're here to talk about one of my favorite Hong Kong films, one of my favorite wuxia films, just an incredible piece of art by King Hu, starring Cheng Pei Pei, and it is genuinely a film that I came late to. I don't think I saw it until maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and since then I've probably seen this movie at least 4 or 5 times, which for me is quite a few times. Rewatching films these days is not something that I have the luxury of a lot of the time, unless it's a holiday classic. But this is one that I really, really love. And the first version of it that I owned was this lovely Arrow Blu-ray of Come Drink With Me. And this was a great, great presentation of the film. Undoubtedly some incredible special features on here. High definition 1080p Blu-ray presentation. You had the uncompressed Mandarin and English original mono audio, optional English subtitles, brand new audio commentary from Tony Raines, which is a great audio commentary, highly recommended. A really lengthy, like 45-minute interview with Cheng Pei Pei. Just a fantastic interview. Really, really enjoyed that. Also, an interview with Yu Hua, which was really, really great as well. Of course, he's fantastic in the film, and I'll get to this a little bit later, but I don't mean this to sound in any way sacrilegious. He might be my favorite part of the film. Cheng Pei Pei is incredible, to consider she was 19 years old when she had made this film. She had a background in ballet, and she came into this movie and just had so much poise, so much power. Really a wonderful performance, and again, we've already talked about her a bit on the show with the last film that we were discussing right over there, The Thundering Sword. And our next film also has Cheng Pei Pei in a prominent role in The Golden Swallow, which is kind of a sequel to Come Drink With Me. But this is just, again, a great presentation of the film. Chin Hung Lei also gets an interview on this. Of course, he plays the jade-faced tiger in the film, and he's brilliant in the film as well. Talk Story with Cheng Pei Pei, which is a 2016 Q&A at the University of Hawaii. Cinema Hong Kong Sword Fighting. It's a documentary on the history of the wuxia genre and Shaw Brothers films, and contributions to it in particular. It's produced by Celestial Pictures in 2003. Features interviews with Cheng Pei Pei, Gordon Liu, Long Kar Leung, John Woo, Sammo Hung, Kara Wee, David Chang, and others. Also just a great documentary. I really enjoyed that. I learned a lot from it, especially about a genre that I've come to love and appreciate so much, which is wuxia, and a studio that I've come to love and appreciate so much, which is Shaw Brothers. Of course, you also get the theatrical trailer, including the theatrical trailer for the sequel, which is The Golden Swallow. You also get the reversible slipcover that Arrow is so well known for, and it's very, very nice. We get this beautiful artwork here, and then on the back we get the original Hong Kong film poster. So just really, really incredible stuff. And I'm going to make sure I get that artist's name for you here in just a second, because I didn't prepare it, because I'm kind of shooting from the hip today a little bit. And then, of course, we also get this beautiful booklet, which has some incredible essays in it, including A Deadly Beauty by Anne Bilson, King Hu and Run Run Shaw, The Clash of Two Cinema Legends by George Chung Hong Wang, and some information about the transfer, which is, again, just awesome that we get these booklets. I really appreciate the essays and the writings on these films, especially in light of the fact that we don't necessarily have a lot of literature out there, to dive deep in. So these essays tend to, especially when you're able to string them together about a particular actor, a particular studio or genre, you start to get a really full picture, almost as though you were reading, a nice, nonfiction book overview of it. The artwork is by Tony Stella. I should have known that. It's just gorgeous artwork by Tony Stella. He always does such a wonderful job. And this is, again, undoubtedly a great, great version of the film. It's an excellent presentation, and if you're looking for a Blu-ray presentation, I certainly recommend the Arrow video version. However, 88 Films decided to one-up them with this 4K Ultra HD presentation. It is phenomenal. I absolutely, if you're looking for a 4K presentation of this film, go for it, because it is just brilliant. I was blown away by it, and I still kind of am in awe of how great this film looks in 4K. Of course, we also get some really cool features. Rob Bruno does the artwork for this one. Some really, really great artwork here, and very different from the Tony Stella, a little bit more stylized. I think it's hard for me to say this because I love Tony Stella's artwork, but I think I do actually prefer Rob Bruno's artwork here on the 88 Films version. We also do get reversible artwork on this as well, which is, again, just that original film poster here. And although rendered in a little bit darker color there. And then we get this really lovely fold out reversible poster, which has the Rob Bruno artwork as well as that original film poster artwork. And then when it comes to the special features, I mean, we are just kind of spoiled here. We get a audio commentary from Frank Zheng, which is fantastic. Audio commentary by Sam Dagan, which is great. Mars Chung on Come Drink With Me, interview with Cheng Pei Pei, which is actually the same interview from the Arrow video. The interview with Yu Hua, which is also the same interview. Interview with Cheng He Le, which is the same interview. The King and I, acclaimed director Chui Hark, Remembering King Hugh, and we get Come Speak With Me, an interview with Cheng Pei Pei, A Return of the Drunken Master, which is another interview with Yu Hua, Stills Gallery trailer, and then, as I mentioned, that poster. So just an incredible set, and really, other than, I believe, the Cinema Hong Kong sword fighting and the Tony Rang's audio commentary, it pretty much contains everything that the Arrow one as well. It is a really weird thing, because I have to say that I don't like to double dip that often. I will absolutely do it for like an upgrade, like if we're going from Blu-ray to 4K. I still have some lingering DVDs that I've yet to upgrade, which at this point I'm just kind of holding out for 4K of. But that said, this was one that was a no-brainer for me, because of the 4K, but also because of the additional special features, which I've not gotten around to actually being able to view all of. But I will say that what I have seen, the interviews with the actors are great. Both of the audio commentaries are fantastic. Frank Zheng's audio commentary is rapid fire, so much information, full of so many great details about the making of the film, the context of the film, the context of the actors, the work that they had done before, the work that they would do after, kind of their place in the genre. Really, really great stuff. King Hu, of course, would go on to direct Touch of Zen and Dragon Inn, which are really kind of the pillars of the genre. And not just the genre, but really two of the giant films in Hong Kong filmmaking. They stand as kind of his artistic testament. And while a lot of other filmmakers were, and I don't mean this in the pejorative sense, churning out a lot of work in a short amount of time, King Hu really took his time with making these films, and he made incredible films, longer films. A lot of the films that we see from Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest are, sub 90 minutes, whereas, King Hu's films tend to be 2 hour plus epics, and with a lot of set pieces. a lot of drama, a lot of character development, and I really, really enjoy his style of filmmaking. I think that his influences certainly felt, to even today, and obviously, going back, I can't believe it's been 25 years, but going back, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was really such a strong homage to King Hu's work, right down to the fact that Cheng Pei Pei was in the film. So, Come Drink With Me, I think, is essential viewing for anyone who's interested in Hong Kong filmmaking, anyone who's interested in the wuxia film genre. I think that you don't have to start with Come Drink With Me, but it should absolutely be one of your first steps along that road. Are there better films than Come Drink With Me? Potentially. I think arguably you could look at both Touch of Zen and Dragon Inn as sort of elevating from the template that Come Drink With Me sets out. There are certainly, films that would up the ante on action choreography. There are some films that I love so much that don't necessarily fit strictly into the wuxia genre. They don't necessarily have some of the fantasy elements. One Armed Swordsman is a great example of that. It treads that line, but you could also view that more as just a swordplay film as opposed to sort of the fantastic elements that are hallmarks of most wuxia films. But I love that movie as well. So I think that if you're looking again to kind of get into wuxia films, Come Drink With Me could easily be an early step along that path. The performance from Cheng Pei Pei, again, for someone who was 19 years old, coming out of ballet, had a few films, I believe, under her belt at that particular point in time, but didn't really have a martial arts background. Was not someone that I think would have been immediately seen or thought of as being this huge action star and someone who would just flourish in the swordplay genre. But I think that the amazing thing is that that was part of her appeal, because she was not necessarily the archetype. That there was something about her that made her even more interesting, and particularly in this film, where it was easy to underestimate her character, and then you see that first barroom fight, for instance, and you're just blown away by the effortless work that she does. And clearly, I mean, there's a lot of choreography that's going along that helps to support that, but physically she was more than up to the task. And beyond physically, just the way she carried herself and the way that she was able to kind of instill in her character this confidence, this strength, and also I think the amazing thing about Cheng Pei Pei as an actor, and we talked about this during Thundering Sword, is that she was always able to balance that hardness with a vulnerability that makes her so incredibly appealing as an actor and as a performer. And it was evident even in Come Drink With Me, one of her earliest works. And I think that before this she had made 4 or 5 films, which is pretty incredible. Now, of course, the Golden Swallow, the character is kind of our hero of the film, but she's not necessarily. There's a bit of a bait and switch here, because even though King Hu was very good at, I think, spotlighting women and giving them a prominent space in his films, this is still 1960s Hong Kong, and you're used to the men being the heroes of the piece, and we do get the drunken cat, played by Yu Hua, and he is so good in this role. And the thing that's so incredible about him in this role is that he does take a bit of a back seat to Golden Swallow for the bulk of the film. And when he starts to kind of creep in on being, the star, the hero of the piece, he's still the script, the direction still makes a lot of space for Golden Swallow. And once we get to the end of the film, if you will, that's when we start to really see that the final fight between the abbot and drunken cat in particular, that this piece had a deeper meaning, right? Even structurally, like there's a story within this story almost, and there's something that's been going on since before this movie starts, and we get to see kind of the end of it in a way. And it's a really interesting storytelling choice, and I think that the overall thrust of the plot of the film as it is set out to us in the very beginning absolutely gets like its full due. Undoubtedly, it's not too much of a bait and switch. However, I think ultimately we realize there's something more at play here, and it creates this really dynamic piece of storytelling. It feels almost like almost like picking up a comic book that has had, a couple of miniseries prior, and now you're just jumping into like the third miniseries, and you've got some new characters, and you've got a new plot line, and you're able to follow it, and it's completely cohesive. And then all of a sudden, you get to the end of the miniseries, and a lot of the stuff from those first two series come back in. Only in the case of this film, there is no prequel, right? There isn't anything prior to this. So it's a really interesting way to tell a story. And I think that because of the fantastic elements that get introduced as a result of, the fight between the abbot and the drunken cat, that the film really reaches its full wuxia potential, if you will. So Come Drink With Me is just a brilliant piece of filmmaking. I love the colors. I love the use of the sets and the studios, as well as the sets of location shooting. The mix is so wonderful. Getting to see these rich outdoor settings, and then these just incredibly well realized studio settings that I think by today's standards, it's easy to point and be like, oh, they're in a studio now. That's a fake plant, or, that's clearly not a real, lake, or whatever. But there's something about it that just feels so magical. And I've talked about this before, being a huge fan of Doctor Who. A lot of times I'm so amazed at the things that they accomplish in the studio. By today's standards, even by the standards of the time at which those things were made, not great special effects by any stretch. And yet the ingenuity, the imagination, the idea that for us it's transportative, it takes us into a different place, into a different time. And much like a good painting, it doesn't have to be photorealistic in order to be beautiful, in order to be appealing, in order to tell a story. And I think that that's one of the things that I really love about some of the studio stuff that we see out of Shaw Brothers and some of the other film studios of this era that are producing wuxia films. I think King Hu is definitely someone we're talking about, and I would love to do an episode strictly about King Hu and where he came from. But he's absolutely, as the Harvard Film Archive pointed out, one of the most influential and important Chinese directors in the history of cinema. And his films, beginning with Come Drink With Me and then Dragon Inn and finishing up with Touch of Zen, really kind of, I think, they charted the course of wuxia films, and took us from sort of more quaint philosophical things, to infusing all that philosophy into a film that could be a little bit more visually fantastic and visually gorgeous and visually sumptuous, and not necessarily the philosophy doesn't come solely from dialogue, right? And that the fight scenes could be bigger and bolder, and the wire work, and the characters flying, and shooting powers out of their fingertips, and all of these sorts of things that I think nowadays we envision in being something completely different, but at the time, revolutionized a great deal of this filmmaking. And as somebody who's such a huge fan of fantasy, literature in general, it's just so cool to see this realized on screen the way that it is, and it makes you want those epic stories told, because there's an element to the the idea that there's something more at play here, that this isn't just sword fights and martial arts, that there's this inner thing that has to get out, and the idea that all of these training along the way, all of the art, all of the artistry into all of this, the emotion, the depth of these characters, it kind of comes out, the power, their literal superpowers, if you will, they're superheroes. It's the same thing that we see with a good superhero film. The idea that the character ends up being fully realized by the expression of their power and the way that they choose to use it. And that's absolutely true of these King Hu movies. There are obviously, Ang Lee in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Zhang Yimou's House of Flying Daggers. These films clearly owe a great debt to King Hu, and obviously Come Drink With Me being a great example of that. I can't wait to talk about Dragon Inn and Touch of Zen. Touch of Zen especially, I think, is a really, really fascinating film for a lot of reasons, because it sees, a lot of what we see in Come Drink With Me, which is sort of standing on the shoulder of films prior, right? Especially with some of the action elements and some of the Shaw Brothers influence. And it really takes that philosophical bent, and it really takes that idea of the outsider, and the way that a character is born, the idea of the heroic journey, and it brings that more to the forefront. And it feels like the film that King Hu was making all along, with the combination of these, this trilogy, if you will. So I'm a huge fan of his films, and I think that the way that he's able to fuse elements of other films together to create something wholly new I mean, that's the genius of any artist, as far as I'm concerned, not just a filmmaker, is when you can take these disparate pieces, the influences, and you might wear them on your sleeve for a while, but as you synthesize them, all of a sudden they transform into an expression of yourself. And I think that that's what art ultimately is. It's impossible to, just to create something on your own, right? Like that's not what happens. We're influenced by anything and everything around us. And sure, I think the earliest storytellers, they were influenced by nature, right? You see something, now I'm going to tell you a story about, the animal that I saw. I'm going to, draw a picture of it on the cave wall or whatever. But as, down through the ages, going back thousands and thousands of years, down through the ages, we've refined our storytelling and our imaginations in ways that I think, owes a great debt to what has come before. And King Hu is no different. However, he synthesized all of that and created something that was wholly new. And now other people have taken from him and tried to create something new, or at least pay homage to the work that he did, which is pretty incredible. Now, of course, there are other films besides these three that I'm mentioning, but they're definitely kind of the three big ones. I also do have The Fate of Lee Khan and The Valiant Ones, which we will certainly talk about. I have both of those in Blu-ray. Actually, no, I believe I have one of those in 4K. I don't remember which one it is. I think it was The Fate of Lee Khan that Eureka did a 4K for. I'm getting way off track. Point is he's an incredible filmmaker and an important filmmaker. I do want to talk just briefly again about Cheng Pei Pei, because Cheng Pei Pei gets a lot in the special features on these discs, deservedly so, because she was a very unique star at the time, being very young, 19, 20 years old, being this wuxia superheroine, but also, as we saw in Thundering Sword, not being afraid to be painted as a bit of a villain at times, right? And not being able to show kind of like the vulnerability and the romantic side. And I think that what she brings to the table anytime she is in one of these films is immense. And unfortunately, I think that there were other filmmakers out there that weren't necessarily as confident as putting women at the forefront. So as we'll see in The Golden Swallow, unfortunately, she does take a backseat sometimes. And I do think that that's a little unfortunate, because not all the time. There are plenty of other films where she's central to, but when she does take the backseat, I do feel like it's a little unfortunate, because she's such a star. She's just such a star. And I think that, again, she's someone that we lost in 2024. I almost said last year, but then I realized it's 2026. So, just recently. And I think that, while her filmmaking days might have been behind her, in this day and age, I look at the age 78 and I think that it feels young to me. And, 10 or 15 more years maybe of her being able to look back and also get her laurels, which she so richly deserved, would have been nice. But again, she was making films right up until 2020. She was in the live action version of Mulan, for instance. And she had been in a number of television programs, English language television programs, English language films, as well as, of course, her Hong Kong resume. We'll get to quite a few films with her, because she was indeed a Shaw Brothers regular, and I'll have some non-Shaw Brothers films of hers as well. But as far as I'm concerned, and as far as a lot of people are concerned, Come Drink With Me is certainly where it begins for her. Take a look at that Rob Bruno artwork one more time. And again, I love this film. I cannot recommend it enough. I think that there is such a visual style to this film that is so incredibly important. And I won't go into too much detail about it, but, even with our villainous character, the Jade Tiger, who we meet early on, and his white painted face and what that means, again, it's worth digging into the supplements to learn more about that and contextualize this, because the educational aspect of this and the idea of kind of reaching across, cultural boundaries in a way to learn more about not only people, but filmmaking and storytelling is something that appeals to me a great deal. And I think that if you're you're watching this video, it probably appeals to you in some fashion. So I would urge you to check out Come Drink With Me, check out the special features. If you can only get one version, go with the 88 Films 4K. Know, however, that the Blu-ray that's included in here with a lot of the special features is a region B, so you have to have an all-region player if you're in North America in order to play that. If you are not looking for, an all-region player and you just want to grab the film, the Arrow Blu-ray is fine. If you do grab the 4K without an all-region player, you can still watch the 4K, which means you watch the 4K and you'll get to listen to those great audio commentaries. You just might not be able to access the rest of the special features. But again, it looks incredibly gorgeous. The colors, the depth of field, the grain, everything about it just looks so good. It really is a stellar transfer. I cannot imagine the film looking much better. A 60-year-old movie looking as good as this. It's incredible. We're so lucky to have this format and have access to these films at this level of quality. So again, that's Come Drink With Me, directed by King Hu, starring Cheng Pei Pei, Yu Hua, Chan Hong Li, and Li Wan Chong, as well as Yong Chi Hing. God, I hope I got that right, as the villainous abbot. So yeah, again, great film, great cast, incredible action, just some really, really wonderful, fun, fantastical elements as well, and well worth your time. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here with this one. Gone a little bit longer than normal, but I felt like it definitely deserved that. I certainly want to go a little deeper and dive a little deeper into some of the personalities behind these films than I already have. I feel like it is an important element. I don't know how well equipped I am to do that, so it's something that I'm researching along the way and trying to put some stuff together so that I can do that in the future, because I would love to talk a little bit more about them as I learn about them and share some of that with you without necessarily just repeating and regurgitating whatever I've heard on any of these special features, because you can go watch those special features yourself and they're well worth your time. So that has been Come Drink With Me. Next up, we'll be talking about The Golden Swallow, which is a part of the Shaw Brothers Classics Volume 1. It's the third film in the set. Slow and steady wins the race on this one. We're going to get through these box sets. I promise you. We might not do one quick kick for each film. We might, throw a couple of films in and just do like capsule size reviews for them. But I feel like A Golden Swallow, being the sequel to Come Drink With Me, deserves its own episode. Again, I have some other things coming up that I want to talk about. I have some stuff that I'm working on for Doctor Who. Might have JJ Lindell joining me for that, which I'm really excited about. I actually shot a video over a year ago, and I haven't released it. And I don't know that I will release it. I will definitely talk about what the video was about, but it was hard. It was difficult for me. I hadn't made a video in a while. Without spoiling too much, it was an unboxing. It was the last project that my friend Matt Dale had participated in as an author, and he'd written a piece for this book. And I did the unboxing, and it was fine. It was whatever, but I don't think I was ready to release it or talk about it or follow up on it. And now I feel like I am. And I love and miss Matt dearly, but I think I'd like to think that this would be a series that he would absolutely be up for and would come along the ride for. So I think I'm ready to do that, and I hope folks will enjoy that too. Again, it'll be a very different topic than what we've talked about so far, which I had fun talking about the holiday films, for instance. Talking about like the British classic, Holly and the Ivy and Cash on Demand. That was a lot of fun to be able to talk about some different stuff. I just have such a great appreciation for film, and again, we have some incredible physical media releases to celebrate. I think physical media is incredibly important. We live in a day and age where so many of these studios and streaming services now, the way that we're seeing, companies being bought out, merged, etc., libraries being kind of bought and sold and then locked away, and what can we mine from this? What do we need from this? And thinking about the rate of releases, 20 years ago compared to the rate of releases now, it's really sad because there are so many great films that have 4K upgrades that don't have a physical media release yet. So I've definitely been collecting stuff. I've been stocking up. There's way too much stuff behind me that I've not yet watched, but I'm going to get to it. I'm going to talk about it, and I'll talk about some of the stuff that I've watched, 10 times as well. But I got a recent haul due to a sale that was on Radiance Films and Arrow Films. So those are some great Japanese films, which I'm looking forward to chatting about. But in the meantime, we'll come back with The Golden Swallow, talk a little bit about Wuxia and Shaw Brothers and Cheng Pei Pei. And then we'll get to some other fun stuff, including, like I said, that series on Doctor Who, which I'm really looking forward to. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, stay safe out there, stay warm if you're in the Chicagoland area. And if you're not, stay warm because it's cold all over, and stay safe in the snow. And always remember to leap responsibly.